You are welcome to yet another episode of HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show, where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. Today we dig further into the shocking revelations from the R. Kelly New York appeal hearing. There is no doubt that the government's case against him is crumbling right before our eyes, and the appeals court has done a good job exposing the twisted narrative that has been used to frame him. What we witnessed during the state's attorney's presentation is nothing short of baffling. A desperate attempt to hold together a case built on shaky ground. Let's break it all down. Imagine sitting in one of the highest courts of the land, and expecting a well-prepared legal argument from government prosecutors, only to hear the state's attorney struggling to explain the very foundation of the case. Something that should have been crystal clear at the trial level. The appeals court judges, legal experts with years of experience, were left questioning why they were being subjected to what seemed like a remedial lesson on the definition of forced labor. That alone tells you everything you need to know. One of the judges bluntly asked the state's attorney, "Why would you call these alleged acts forced labor when they bear no resemblance to the term whatsoever?" And what did we see? An unconvincing, fumbling response characterized by nervous fidgeting, empty justifications, and a complete inability to provide a straight answer.
So you think we should focus on the actions that constituted the force as opposed to the labor that was forced?
Well, I think as to labor and service, under this court's definitions of those recently in Raniere and recently in Marcus, sexual activity, I think, clearly falls within the definition of the expenditure of physical or mental effort, especially when fatiguing, difficult, or compulsory.
From this moment it was clear, the government's case was not just flawed. It was deliberately misleading. Let's take a step back and examine the absurdity of these forced labor allegations. Forced labor by definition involves coercion and threats or violence to make someone work against their will. And this has to take place over a reasonable period of time, usually weeks, months, or even years. Traditionally, it applies to extreme cases of labor exploitation, such as human trafficking for this purpose and modern-day slavery. But how does this apply to R. Kelly? A man who simply loved women and took good care of them. Shared his resources with them, took them on shopping sprees, and shared his possessions such as his cars with them. How can someone love people so much and yet force them into labor as well? The government twisted this legal concept beyond recognition to fit a narrative that had no basis in reality. Imagine the prosecution claimed that R. Kelly forced individuals to engage in acts that had no connection to actual labor. No work, no production, no servitude, nothing that aligns with the legal definition. And yet they successfully pushed this idea onto the jury, using emotional testimonies instead of factual evidence. Later faced with a panel of experienced appeals judges, though, their argument is collapsing under the weight of its own absurdity. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Why was the government so desperate to frame R. Kelly? The answer is simple: public pressure, media sensationalism, and of course a predetermined agenda. When the Me Too movement was at its peak, authorities saw R. Kelly as the perfect scapegoat. A high-profile target that would make headlines. However, in their rush to convict him, they disregarded due process, overlooked inconsistencies, and even stretched legal definitions beyond their limits. The trial court, which should have been a place of fairness and objectivity, became a theater for the prosecution's narrative. And now at the appellate level, those errors are being exposed. It's clear that this case was never about justice. It was about making an example out of R. Kelly regardless of the facts. The reaction from the appellate judges says it all. When a judge openly questions the prosecution's legal reasoning, you know something is terribly wrong. And when a government attorney struggles to provide a coherent answer, you know their case is falling apart. And this wasn't just a small legal misstep but the unraveling of a major injustice. Legal analysts observing the appeal have noted the judge's visible frustration with the government's inability to justify their claims. The government's so-called ironclad case is revealing itself to be a house of cards built on misleading charges and exaggerated accusations. The truth is finally breaking through the web of lies. Meanwhile, one of the biggest players in this entire saga has been the media. For years, mainstream outlets painted R. Kelly as guilty before he ever set foot in a courtroom. They amplified the most sensational accusations while ignoring the inconsistencies in the testimonies. The media set the stage for a guilty verdict long before a jury was even selected. Now, as the appeals process unfolds, those same media outlets are silent, with some of them shifting goalposts to R. Kelly's side. This is largely because the truth contradicts their narrative. They don't want to admit they participated in one of the biggest legal railroads in recent history. But we can see through the deception, and the truth is finally coming to light. Also important to note, the implications of this case go far beyond R. Kelly. In fact, his appeal is about more than one man. It's largely about the integrity of the justice system. If prosecutors can manipulate the law to target one individual, who's to say they won't do it again? If the courts allow emotion to outweigh evidence, how many more innocent people will suffer the same fate? The appeal judges have a duty to correct this injustice and protect the image of the entire justice system. The government's inability to defend their own arguments proves that R. Kelly's trial was flawed from the start. If justice is truly blind, then the only rightful outcome is a reversal of this clearly wrongful conviction. We must stand for the truth. We must hold the legal system accountable and demand fairness for all. R. Kelly's case is a reminder that public opinion should never dictate justice, and that no man should be condemned by a system that bends the law to fit a false narrative. In the meantime, let's stay informed, stay vigilant, and most importantly, keep questioning the official story. Justice must be based on fact and not emotions. And as this appeal unfolds, we will continue exposing the truth of the matter. If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure to like, share and subscribe for more deep dives into cases that matter. The fight for justice is not over yet. If you want to be featured in our video releases, send us your clips by emailing them to hnnewsroom242@gmail.com or use Google Drive for larger files. Be sure to include your name and any details you'd like us to know. We can't wait to showcase your contributions. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say? To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.